We are living in a world of great drama. Leaders around the world tend to be out for big headlines. They want to be noticed and heard and work with imposing plans and programs. Success is measured in vague personal popularity, captivating stories, social media likes, and the size of the rubrics. Good morning, everyone. After two central bankers, I can promise that my approach will be totally different. But I think that is actually the beauty of forums like this, that the speakers approach the topic from different angles. We have had a lot of talk about the national level, European level, even global level, but let's not forget the local level. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's difficult to avoid thinking that the humanity does not seem to be learning and becoming wiser. That the increase in education, skills and civilization, the global reduction in poverty, the heightened awareness of the world's problems, and the growth of prosperity are not producing a better run world. That the world's sorrows caused by man are not diminishing. That progress has not progressed. We are living in a crazy world where almost everything seems to be in state of upheaval. Technology is making huge leaps forward. Geopolitical tensions have returned. The sustainability crisis is a real threat. Economic integration and free trade are struggling all around the world. Even the media is in turmoil. This uncertainty is not likely to be temporary. Indeed, the nature, extent and permanence of uncertainty are so strong that one could well speak of it as a global megatrend. While there is no escaping a difficult world, it is creating a huge demand for structures that create stability and predictability, and a sense-making framework. The war in defense of a well-functioning democracy and many universal values is different to other wars. You have to carefully pick up your arms. This war is not fought between nations, armies, or individual people. It unifies and divides us as a community of people. Our fundamental need for coexistence stipulates that people gravitate towards unified, joint, and like-minded communities. These communities we call cities. Their role in the battle for a better world is big and only growing. People are social creatures. They value the multiplicity of stimulus urban environments can offer already in ancient times and even earlier. The Greek philosopher Aristotle told us that people move to cities to seek work and income, but they remain there to live a good life. Aristotle's insights date from 2,300 years ago, from the great heyday of city-states, but the essence of cities remain the same today. Getting a job and earning an income may be seen as a short-term and more practical, and living a good life as a long-term and more philosophical goal setting. In practice, they are, however, strongly interconnected. The history of urbanization is actually a history of people who leave their homes in order to get new ones somewhere where they think they have better opportunities for a good and happy life. It may be that soft power, defined quite widely, is the only way to beat the bad forces. In the past, growing and developing cities laid the foundation for creating various stimuli, spaces and events, culture and sport, shared meals, reflection, and philosophizing about common issues, and even democracy. The cities created an opportunity for people to become more prosperous in general and for spending a more stimulating and social existence in everyday life. The future will not differ from the past in this perspective. Pursuit of an enjoyable, diverse, and stimulating happy life is a timeless phenomenon. The world changes, but human nature less so. Urbanization and the economic, social, and cultural dynamics associated with it are obviously not new phenomena. cities and city-states have long played a major role in shaping world history. Nation-states are actually a fairly new phenomenon. Cities have a much longer and more prestigious history. Urban centers have long been engines of economic growth. Cities and empires have been the common denominators of history. We had cities long, long before nation-states even existed as a concept. A strong economy is a necessary but not a sufficient characteristic of a successful city. A spiritually and culturally vibrant city creates a lot of happiness but will inevitably fall short of its full potential unless the city can also generate enough economic activity. At first glance, these two sides look like different things, but they are increasingly intertwined. Work and activity lay the foundation for a good life, but more and more often, the equation works in the other direction too. A high quality of life and an entertaining city that offers diverse experiences will stimulate work and investments and attract the best brains and talents. Especially for young cosmopolitan talents, the place of work is no longer chosen slowly for what it is. Increasingly important is where it is and what opportunities the location offers for a good life. In this equation, the city is a more relevant factor than the nation. It is more typical to plan a holiday trip to Amsterdam than to Holland, or to think about starting a business in Berlin than in Germany. Whereas people used to emigrate to America in search for a better future, now they travel to Boston or San Francisco. Shanghai is more interesting than China. Many people don't even know which country Dubai is in, but everyone knows Dubai. Conditions that complicate and sometimes cripple decision-making in nation-states are also present in cities, but in most cases they are much weaker. Cities are not immune to populism, nor to the crisis of democracy, nor to the difficulty of finding systemic solutions amid general world complexity, but they are significantly more operational players than countries are. They have daily concrete interactions with citizens, and they daily cause joys and sorrows. The most important user interface for the individual is the city. In addition to the typical economically motivated reasoning, there is also the softer, more conceptual side. Cities are also much less party political than states, which among other benefits often increases the legitimacy of city governments. It also makes it easier to concentrate on what you should concentrate on, namely something that can make a difference, and by paying attention to problem solving instead of problem creation. Globally pressing problems have in most cases an urban nature. Cities have thus a growing relevance. They play a key role in the fight against climate change, poverty, segregation, terrorism, and many other wicked problems, as well as creating optimal circumstances for healthy aging or clever use of digitalization. The biggest social challenges will take place in cities. The most pressing need for new solutions will concentrate on urban areas, and cities offer the critical mass of people and resources in order to create viable solutions to these challenges. The capacity of the cities is critical for turning different kind of goals and commitments, also on the national and even European level, into concrete action and reality. Urbanization itself is a global megatrend, but even more important is that urbanization is not merely one megatrend among many, but an umbrella or frame of reference for the effects of many other megatrends. The changes in our living environment required by an aging population are mainly being implemented in cities. The potential of digitalization and its broader technological revolution are mainly displayed where people are concentrated together. The most troublesome manifestations of polarization and segregation are found in cities. Cities generate most emissions and suffer most from concomitant harm. By the way, by 2050, which is not that far away, is actually as far away as 2000 was, 2.5 billion people will live in cities. Another 2.5 billion people will live in cities. And we as the mankind have added 1.2 million square kilometer urban areas, corresponding to the mass of France and Spain combined on global level. How cities are designed, built, led, and operated is an absolutely crucial question for the whole mankind. Underlying the rising role of cities is not urbanization per se, but its consequence, because urbanization has given an urban context to most of the big challenges facing humanity. Obviously, it is not unimportant that as more and more of humanity lives in cities, more and more people have an urban way of life and mindset. A larger part of everything simply happens in cities. More of everything has an urban context. Dear friends, we need something to create stability and hope and restore trust in the current chaos. Something to build a sense-making framework in the complicated world, and something to successfully fight against the manifold attacks against our democratic system. It may be that there is no better way to do this than to concentrate on what actually is relevant to our people, the basic and commonplace everyday life. That should not be revolutionary at all. It's only returning to something which has always been the core of both the life of the individual and the basis for a successful society. The importance of cities is growing for many reasons, not least because of the contrast they can offer to what is happening in many other parts of the world. Cities are bound up with genuine, real, and meaningful things that are the concrete building blocks of everyday life. We're living in a rapidly and unpredictably changing world where even the nature of change is changing. Our understanding of the future is indefinite and incomplete. Less and less can be predicted. The winners will be those who are agile and adaptive, willing and ready to change, able to change. These are not typical features of nation states. Unfortunately, even less for nation states in democracies. Nation states were simply not planned to solve the pressing problems of today's world, with the exception of situations where you need military power. What's more essential, the megatrends of our time ask for capabilities more typical for cities. The ability to manage climate adaptation or digital transformation, or the skill for managing urban mobility, are above all characteristics of cities. Functional infrastructure tells us more about how the world works than political borders. Cities are also more scalable than states. Regardless of differences in culture, language, or social structures, a transformational idea can be born and utilized anywhere in the world as cities have become more interconnected. It's clear that we have to make big changes in our ways of living. This do not have to mean worse and less happy lives, but it means a necessity to reformulate values and tools of measuring development. The mankind needs to find both happiness and motivation from other issues than traditional material well-being. The factors contributing to a city's success are already gradually shifting to softer urban attributes, such as how cities build a customer service culture, foster urban experiences, and achieve sustainability. No one has the sole ownership of this big agenda. All societal actors have a role to play. It's clear that nation states still play a significant role in a huge number of issues. Recent geopolitical tensions and wars have underlined the role of military power. Federal governments and central banks have undoubtedly a big impact in the economics. And there are many, many other examples highlighting the state's influence. It's, however, evident that cities' actions are more significant in this equation than most of us think. Cities are the experts on everyday life, and their toolkit there is much more relevant than the one of the nation states. Ladies and gentlemen, cities do also have a long history of diversity, cultural dialogue, and diplomacy. There were Jewish, Egyptian and Latin quarters in Alexandria already several thousands years ago. This is also an important element in identifying successful cities. In his book, The Most Prosperous Cities in the World History, a Finnish science writer Ari Turunen depicts 9 cities from the Greek Miletus to the Egyptian Alexandria, from Hangzhou in China to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. He says that what allowed them to succeed was above all a certain mindset. Quote, "These were cities where diverse people and original experiments could live in peace, without persecution and restrictions. The cities flourished because they encouraged freedom of thought and action and understood foreign languages and cultures." We are living in a world of great drama. Leaders around the world tend to be out for big headlines. They want to be noticed and heard and work with imposing plans and programs. Success is measured in vague personal popularity, captivating stories, social media likes, and the size of the rubrics. I'm, however, convinced that it is the dull, everyday life which finally counts. People want to have less drama, not more. They want to raise their families and live in peace, not having to worry too much. They love entertainment, but they think it's up to the artists, not the political leaders, to provide them with that. The more complex the world gets, the bigger the need and demand for simple everyday issues and good cities become. Thank you.